Are you interested to build your own tiny home, but the more you look into it, the more complicated it seems? Then come along with us as we navigate through all the options and restrictions, helping you make this dream come true. Let's go. Hey guys, Musa here from Quantum Home Improvements and Solutions. Welcome back. And if this is your first time to our channel, it's great having you join us. And so now we're up to stage 3 of this tiny home. And now we're going to build a retractable decking, which I'm really excited about. And so when this decking retracts back for transport purposes, it's going to increase the width of this tiny home to 3.4 meters wide. Now, when you're building a tiny home on skids, you can actually go to 3.5 meters without having special permission on the road. I made this tiny home 3.2 meters wide to take in consideration the extra width. Now, the actual decking itself will be 5 meters long and the projection will be roughly about 2.2 meters, and that's going to add another 10 square meters of outdoor entertaining area, which is going to be fantastic. And I'm going to be using 3mm by 100 by 50 RHS, which I got from Priority Steel, who are in Seven Hills, and it was just delivered by Ethan the other day, who always does a great job. So now if you are interested to see how we made the base in stage 1 or the walls in stage 2, I will put a link for those videos in the descriptions below. Okay, now I'll get ready. Mr. Suka's coming shortly to give me a hand. Hey Joe, thanks for coming.
Oh, thanks for having me again, Musa.
Mate, look at the progress we've made since you've last been here.
Amazing, the walls are up, the roof's up, and you still got the structural tenacity as well.
It's fantastic. And you know, I know you couldn't be here, but all the guys that came, everyone followed the procedure. It was safe at all time, and mate, it just fell into place. Plus we had Jorge, the engineer, come and look at it, and he certified it, which I'm really happy about, and to the level that needs to be at this point. I still need to put all the timber, the structural timber, to increase the strength. But yeah, everything's looking really good. Okay, Joe, you ready to get into it?
Let's go.
Okay, so Joe, these are the angles, which is going to sit on the base here. I'm going to weld these across here, and also the bearers on the decking. So we're going to use those. We'll cut them 5 meters long. Okay, so these are the 100 by 50s, and they're 3 mil thick. There's a bit of weight in these, and these are going to be 2 meters long as the floor joist, and there's also going to be 2 lots of 5 meter to make the width. That's it, Joe. Thank you very much. Now we're ready to cut these. Now, one thing you'll notice that I've suited up, I'm actually put on my welding gear. So on the first video, I didn't wear any protective clothing, and I did actually burn my jeans. So now you think I would know better. My father was a class 1 welder, and I knew that I should have protective clothing. But if you are going to do this kind of work, just be really careful. And one thing to note, being a hot day, we've got to be really careful because you can have spot fires with the grass. We did actually cut this grass down just the other day. So now we're ready to get into it. So as I said before, I'm going to be using this 100 by 50 3mm RHS, and these are going to be the floor joists. Now these are 6 meter lengths, just over, and I'm going to cut a whole heap of 2 meters. And also I'm going to be spacing these at 450 centers because I'm going to be using 19mm hardwood merbau. So when you're using 19mm, you can only space your joists at 450 centers. Okay, so I've gone through and squared off all the measurements. So we're going to have 12 floor joists to construct this. And so I've squared it off, but I've also gone through and re-measured everything to make sure that I'm correct, because I've left no room for error, and there's a bit of money here and I don't want to go out and buy some more. Okay, so if you're wondering what grinder I'm using, this is a Makita 7-inch. Now these can be a death machine. It's now illegal to use a 9-inch, and so you've got to be careful because they do shake around a bit. But what a great grinder this is. Makita make great grinders, and even my 4.5 inch is fantastic. And I got this from Total Tools if you're interested. Okay, so now we've set up the parameter for the retractable decking and everything's in place. And so what we did, we put some clamps and held it in place so they don't move. When you weld, and we're going to be doing MIG welding today, when you weld, you've got to tack, because what happens is the steel starts to move and twist and bend as it cools down. So you've got to tack weld in a number of places. And so we'll do a couple of tack welds, we'll do a solid weld, and then we'll turn the whole thing over once we put another joist in the middle. So we're getting there. This is looking fantastic. We've measured the joist spacing. So as I said before, they're 450 centers. And then we've also done a cross check. So we've squared it off, and this is within 0.5 millimeter. So I'm really happy about that. And so the MIG welder I'm using is a Unimig Viper 185, and it's a MIG, TIG and arc welder. And so I'm going to be doing MIG welding today with argon. So you can actually do MIG welding gasless, but you do have to have a special wire, but I prefer to use it with gas. It has less splattering. But unfortunately, when you're working outdoors, the argon gas does blow through the nozzle and it doesn't weld so great. But it is better than gasless, I think, personally. And so I got this through Total Tools, and I've got to say Dominic was fantastic, spot on, gave me the right machine, and this machine is brilliant for this project. It can weld up to 10 mil. We have 8 mil steel here, but we're now going to be welding 3 mil. All right, so Joe, you ready to get into it?
Let's rock and roll.
Let's go. You ready?
Yeah. I was born ready with it.
Okay, so when you are welding, the tip will get a little bit dirty with some of the splatter. So you just need to periodically just clean that out. Okay, all the corners are done. Okay, so now we've got this floor joist in position. It's sitting well, but we also put the measuring tape out. Even though we've marked it already, we just want to be 100% sure that it's sitting in the right spot. Okay, I'll just take this one. That's it, just walk it. Let me just do it a bit more. All right, Joe, let that come down. Just be really, really careful. I'm gonna have to let it go. Oh, that was beautiful. So now, Joe, can you go to the other corner? Yeah, that's good, Joe. That's good. Yep.
You've obviously welded before.
Thanks, Joe. Okay, so we've just discovered that the angles are bowed and it's not going to work for us. I was going to weld the hinges directly onto them, but it's not going to work. So what we've decided to do is put the decking outside. It fits in this area, and we're working that as a platform. And so we've got the angles in place with the G-clamps, and you can see this big bow in the middle. So it's almost level there, and it's 20 mil higher here. Now the reason it's 20 mil higher, because I'm going to be putting the timber decking up against the angle. So that way I don't lose any room when it collapses in, when it closes. Beautiful. I'll just do the other end. Okay, that's spot on. So now, Joe, I'm just going to put one in the middle here. That just cut off. So the welder has an automatic cut off when you use a certain amount of amperage. So now we'll just wait a few minutes and it'll cool back down. Okay, the last weld is done. And so I've spaced these at a 500 centers like I did for the bottom plates onto the base. And now we're just going to weld underneath. But Joe was wanting to have a look at my welds. Joe, what do you think?
Yep, he's got my tick of approval.
All right, so now what we've done, I've gone through and welded both sides. Now I have to go through and just weld underneath a little, and then we're going to weld the hinges onto the other angle directly onto this. All done. This is fantastic. Now you would have noticed a bit of smoke coming out there. God rest his soul, my father unfortunately had emphysema from welding, and so he welded for 18 years for Ream in an unventilated area and using arc welding, which is, I think, probably one of the worst welding for inhaling the smoke. But you do need a ventilated area. But as I said before, if it's too windy, the argon's not going to work very well. So you've got to have a good compromise. You may have to wear a mask. Okay, so I've spaced out the hinges I'm going to use. Now these hinges are a 2-part hinge. So I'm using these specifically because they hinge nicely, they're quite solid. And also if we ever want to take this off, it can just slide off. And all you do to secure it, you just put a split pin inside. So we're going to be sitting these on the edge like this. So I'll weld the first one to this side, and then I'm going to weld the other side to the angle, which will be welded onto the frame, to the base. Beautiful, that was quite easy. And you've got to make sure that the other one still moves. You can't put it up too tight. And one thing to note, to make sure that you go in the same direction every time, so the pin is going that way. Okay, last one. I'm going to weld this, can you hold it? That's solid. Okay, Joe, that looks fantastic, eh? So now we're going to weld the opposite end. So we just turn it all the way over, and look at that, access to the other side. Okay, we're back. We had a bit of a break, but it's actually starting to rain, so we're going to have to do this really quick. So what I've done is actually put in a post bracket into the actual structure. So I made them by using 80mm by 80 square tubing, cut it, turn the lip over, and then welded it down. So that way when you put a post inside, it doesn't go all the way through. So I've gone through and I've welded all the hinges, that's all done. Plus, because I was doing the welding so thick, the thickness of the welds were probably a bit ugly. So I went through and just grind them down a bit, just to make it a bit more sightly. Now, we're really running out of time here. So I'm gonna quickly grab the tractor. We're gonna pull this out and we're gonna try to hoist it up so we can put it in position and then give it a quick tack and we'll get out of this rain. That's it, Joe. That's it. Just so you know what you're looking for, this angle has to sit right there.
Like the bottom flush?
Yeah, flush with the bottom. If you can hold that for me, Joe, that'll be fantastic. All right, I'm back. And what beautiful weather we're having. So it was crazy when we were putting this retractable decking on. It was okay before we started, and then as we got ready to put it on, it started raining. Okay, so now this angle, as I said before, is bowed. So now the only way I can straighten that is by putting a G-clamp down. This bottom plate is in the way, but in actual fact, this bottom plate is gonna go anyway. This is where the sliding door is going. So I've just got to measure out the other side. The sliding door is from Bradnam Windows. They've just delivered, and they look fantastic. I always use Bradnam. So now I know the exact size. I've just got to measure it out and then cut this bottom plate off. There we go, it's off. Okay, so now I'll just take this clamp back off and it's going down. Okay, let's see if we can pull this one in. Okay, it's got to go up probably about 2mm only. So it's going to be fairly straight. So I'm going to put this into the tractor again and just hoist it up just a little bit more. Just a little bit here. Okay, so this section here is pretty straight up to the G-clamp, and I'll need to put another one just there in a minute. So I'll just weld this up and then I'll move along. I don't need this anymore. And now to close the gap on this one, I'll put one in the middle. I'll just put this one here. That's it, done. Okay, so you can just see here a little bit of a gap. So now I'll just do the exact same thing and close this one off. That closed in nicely. That's it. There we go. This is coming together beautifully. That should close it up completely now. Okay, it's all done under here. This worked beautifully. Okay, they're all done. Okay, so what I'm doing now is leveling this off. And now because I put these post brackets in here, I can actually put some timbers in there just to hold it just temporarily until I actually cut the pieces properly. But for now, I'm just gonna find a level just so I can get a height. Ah, perfect, spot on, they're both equal. I'll just check around here. Beautiful. So I've gone through and just checked if it's square again, and it's spot on within 0.5 millimeter. So I'm really happy about that. And so now I'm using the quick grips with timber and just placing them underneath where the floor joist is going to go, just to hold it temporarily so I can tack this side, because I am on my own. So I just had to come up with a technique that's going to work for me, and this should work fine. So now I'll just put this in place. Okay, 1 down, 8 to go. Okay, this is the last one. I just double checked the spacing. So I don't know if you can hear the rumbling, but it sounds like it's gonna rain again. This is driving me nuts. Okay, so now I'll just go through and just weld underneath, and I'll lift the tract up higher to do the other side. One thing to note when you are welding, try not to weld too close to a tractor, especially next to the hydraulic hoses where there's oil. So I'm just going around that just to avoid it. Having a tractor makes everything so much easier. Okay, this stage of the retractable decking is complete. So now I was eager and I thought I was going to start the decking, but I did forget one stage, which is to finish around the door, because the last thing you want to do is weld and let the splatter come onto the timber. So I'm going to put this frame up now. So I'll do the stud and also the header, and just a couple of studs in between to take some load off the top plate and to load onto the header as well. So then they're both working together and give it more strength in that area. So now the door itself is 2.502. So it's a little bit over 2.5 meters. So the width I've created here is in the actual fact 2.510. So I'm giving it 4 millimeters gap only both sides, because I know both sides are now level. And so when I put the doors in, I don't want to give it too much room to move. I will have to use packers. Usually you would probably allow about 10 mil either side, but I'm not going to do that here. Okay, so now the door height sitting on the bottom plate, in actual fact the bearer, is going to be 2.1 meters. So what I'm going to do here is make it 2.110. I'm going to actually give it 10 mil in this case, not 4 mil. To make life a bit easier, I'm going to use a G-clamp and some timber so I can sit the header on top of this. Okay, so this is the piece that's going to go on. I made it a really tight fit, a really, really tight fit. So it's going to be a little hard to get this on. That's spot on. This is exciting. So after I cut the steel and finished off the door area, welded everything in place, I went and cut another 70 by 70 tube and put it to the right side next to the cross bracing. So the reason I've done that is because that's where I'm going to put the winch that's actually going to pull this decking up. And it's right next to the ceiling joist, and it's next to the cross brace, so it's got a lot of area of strength in there. It was no good to put it here, because if I put a winch on this side, it'll actually put a bit of stress on the glass on the door, and I really didn't want to do that. And Mary and I also went through and cut the legs, and we put them in position, putting the concrete underneath, placing them so it's sitting on a solid platform, and it's all level now. And then we went through and pre-drilled and put screws in to hold the legs into place. Then after that, Mary and I went through with the wire brush on the drill. I cleaned out all the weld spots, and then she went through and sprayed all those welds with cold gal just to protect it from rusting. Okay, so now we're ready to put the decking on. And so the decking we've got here is a 90 mil by 19 mil, which remember that anything 19 mil has to have a 450 center space in the floor joists. These are finger jointed. It is actually a merbau from Indonesia, which we got from Bunnings. Thanks to Josh for organizing that, and also for Johnny who delivered it, which was on his birthday. So now I'm going to use my Makita compound drop saw to make sure that they're cut properly, to make sure they're straight. Now the ends were bowed. As I said before, these 100 by 50s, all the steel actually slightly bowed. So what we've done is just put a timber noggin in place at this point to push them out to make them straight as possible. So when the decking goes on, it's going to look straight on the ends. So one thing I've got to say, when you are using a drop saw, it can be out of angle very, very easily. So I've gone through and tested with a piece of timber and just did a slither, turned it around, and it was dead straight on 90 degree. Okay, so now we're going to cut through all of them and we'll just place them to the back, and that way we just get all the decking cutting out of the way one go. Okay, last piece. We're back and I've got Mr. Suka back with me, which is fantastic. Thanks, Joe.
No worries, Musa.
Okay, so now, Joe, we're up to the stage of putting the decking on. Now, Josh from Bunnings did actually recommend that I use these screws. They're from Bremic. When I went to look for decking screws to screw into steel, I could not find any. And I actually worked in the industry for a year for Bowstead Fasteners, and I could not find anything. So anyway, he recommended that I use these ones. These are self-drillers, self-cutting into steel. And it's out of all the ones I saw, it's the only one that says fasten decking to steel joists. And that's what we've got here. It's not thin steel, this is 3mm. Now, Josh did recommend that we pre-drill a little, because these are recommended only to 2.5 mil. So I'm gonna have to pre-drill a little bit before I go in. All right, so now what I'm gonna do first, before we try this, we're gonna use some packers up against the angle. These are 5mm packers, and we're gonna put them behind here, actually every third joist, because the timbers are bowed. You always get timbers bowed. You can't help it with decking. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is use the quick grip, put the packer behind and just push it with my leg and just close that off and do it as hard as I can. All right, so I'm just gonna drill in around about 15 mil from the edge. Okay, that's looking really good. All right, let's try it. Let's see how we go. Oh, Joe, that's beautiful. Look at that.
Yeah.
Doesn't that look good?
Yeah.
I like it.
And it's strong too, with one screw.
Yeah, we're going to put two anyway.
Yeah.
Wow, that's great, Joe. You've done a great job. And so the first one's all done. See how it's just sitting just a little bit off the bracket, the leg bracket?
Yeah.
That's fantastic. That worked out really well.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Okay, so we've put all the decking on here just to make life a bit easier, so we can actually sit on this platform or work on this platform instead of between the joists. It's going to make it a lot easier. So there is a bit of a gap here, you can see. Now we are using 5mm packers as a spacer, so by the time we finish, come to the end, this will get very close to the edge here. Okay, so what we're making sure that the decking is actually at the same level on this side, so it's actually right on the joist, and also it's at the same level as the first decking. Back. It's another day. Unfortunately, Mr. Suka had to go yesterday afternoon. We finished at the 9th deck and we've got 13 to go. And this is looking fantastic. I'm so happy with it. I'm very happy about these screws. So we've gone to the hardware and got some more. So they come in a pack of 100. So these Bremic screws, their decking screws, are just fantastic. I just want to say thanks to Josh once again. Thanks for the advice. These are spot on, probably the best I've ever used. And so we had the decking spaced at 5mm apart, but you can see these spaces here, they're the 5mm spaces. Now when we get to the very end, there's still 13mm. So what we're going to do, we're going to increase that gap now to 6mm. So while Mr. Suga was with me, we also picked up the stringers and all the things we needed to make the staircase. And thanks to Mr. Suga, he bought me the stringers for my birthday. Now the timber, unfortunately, is pine, and pine is not going to be ideal for us here because we're under the BAL 29 rating, and so this tiny home will be built minimum BAL 29, but more like BAL 40. So if you don't know about the BAL rating, it's a bushfire attack level, and it comes at 12.5, 19, 29, 40, and flame zone. So we're in the midpoint. So this will be built for our fire restrictions. So now with the pine, I will use it because I couldn't get anything in a Merbau, but I probably will have to replace it in the future, or I'll paint it with some kind of fire retardant paint. And I also decided that I'm going to put another timber running down the sides to trim the edges to make it look nice. That'll finish it off completely. All right, now I'm going to get into it and finish this off, and Mr. Suka will be here shortly. Mate, that's
Finish,
beautiful. Woohoo, this part of the decking's done. Okay, so now we're going to cut the two sides to dress this up a little bit. Now these are 140s, these are 90s. That's just going to go down lower and just cover the whole steel and the decking. Once we've cut that, we're also going to cut the step treads, and they're 600 wide, and then we'll install the actual stairs itself. Okay, Joe. If we could put that in place. All right, so they'll just sit there like that. That's sitting beautifully, actually. I'm just going to let it overhang about 3 mil this way, so the other board will have a bit of spacing, like a little bit of a gap between it. Beautiful. They're done. That looks very nice. I like that. Okay, Joe, I'll probably start the stairs probably about here somewhere. So if you can put that block just down here, and I'll see where that tread comes to. Just back further. Yeah, Joe, that's looking pretty good, eh? It
is, yeah.
Yeah, so what we need to do, it's not exactly perfect yet. So what we've got to do, I'll just put this on the side. Just pass me the mattock for a sec. So I'm just going to take out the high spot. Okay, and just fill in the low spot. Yeah. That's it, Joe. That's perfect, Joe. That's level. Yeah, that's fine. That's perfect, Joe. That looks really good. That's actually level now, Joe.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Keep an eye on that pencil and just see as a marker.
Yeah.
Okay, Joe, we get that in. Okay, that's done. So now, Joe, if you could pass me the other timbers. Beautiful.
I'm beautiful or the timber?
Both. Joe, this is looking incredible, isn't it? Look at that.
Wow, nice staircase, Musa.
Wow. So, Joe, do you reckon it's too narrow?
No, if I can stand on there, Musa, anybody can.
Joe, thank you very much. That was a nice present.
No worries.
Thank you.
My pleasure, Musa.
Okay, my camera woman just reminded me I had to take the timber noggins out, which we put in when we first started doing the decking. So I'll knock that out, and there we go. Okay, Joe, this is the end of stage 3. What do you think?
Look at the space, Musa.
It's fantastic.
Wow.
And I want to thank you very much for helping. Mr. Suka is fantastic. We went through some really tough times. Marion was with us on the rainy day. She was helping us, trying to keep everything dry. What a crazy moment that was. Yeah. We got it done. And man, this is a lot of work. I've got to be honest.
But Musa, this is a main feature of your tiny home.
Marion, what do you think?
Yeah, it's nice. I like it.
Yeah, and thank you, Marion. You're beautiful. Thank you for helping. My little camera woman.
You're the best help. The camera woman, the assistant, the builder, the everything.
Oh, it's fantastic. So the next stage now is to finish off the structure, which is doing all the timber work and finalize everything ready to put the Colorbond, the outside cladding on, which is going to be a bit of fun. Anyway, so there's a lot of work to be done, and it's coming together. This is now we're 1/4 of the way through, and Joe, this is killing me.
It's coming out beautifully, but
It's fantastic. So if you are interested in any of the products I've used, I will put them in the descriptions below. So I'll put a link in for Total Tools, for Bunnings, and for Priority Steel. And I'll also put a link for the first and second video, stage 1 and stage 2. I forgot to mention, besides finishing the staircase, I've also got to put this timber on, and this part is done. So that's the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got something out of it. And if you have any comments at all, please leave below and I will get back to you. And I'd ask you, please consider to subscribe, hit the like button and share this video, and there's many more to come. Thanks, guys.
thanks guys.
Bye.
And now we're just going to weld underneath. But Joe was wanting to have a look at my welds. Joe, what do you think?
Yep, he's got my tick of approval.
Now there's only one problem. Joe used to weld himself when he was young. I'm not sure how he did that without hurting himself. Now he's a bit jealous. He actually wants to have a go. So he's going to weld underneath where no one can see. So Joe, start roughly about here and just weld across that way. When you're ready.
I'm ready, Musa.
Go for it.
I've got to press the button, don't I?
Yep.
Yes, I think I'm wrong on that part.
So this is where you've got to weld only to about that point there. I want you to go this far from it.
Ah.
That sounds good, Joe. Let's have a look, Joe. Mate, Joe, that's not too bad, eh? That looks all right.
Would you buy that for $1, Musa?
50 cents. Okay, let's clean up this mess. Beautiful. Mate, it made your world look good now.
Oh, thanks, Musa.
You're welcome, buddy, anytime.